Okay, hi, hello, welcome back, Alexandrian Codex. It's a new day, and I want to talk about what I got done today for this mod. Oh god, no, I don't want to play the US. I wanted to hop in as Hawaii so we could take a look at what shit happens now and compare it to yesterday. I've been at it for 10 hours? 10 hours today? So I'm wrapping up, and I want to wrap up by doing this. Yeah, alright, we're Hawaii. Go, and I'm not going to do anything. So, I have not removed the US's cores on everything. I have instead given everybody else their cores. So, the AI will actually... the First Nations will actually fight amongst each other. I haven't programmed in their relationships, like historical alliances, rivalries, things like that. I haven't touched on that at all. There's a little bit that Victoria 2... There's a little leeway there, so I can introduce some of that. So right now they're a little ahistoric. I have not given them standing armies at the beginning of the game, but as you can see here, I've gone in and added soldiers to fucking everywhere. Basically, if a province had enough, if it had at least 2,000 of one culture, half of them, 1,000 of them were assigned to soldiers. So if you can have 1,000 farmers or 1,000 laborers and 1,000 soldiers, that's the minimum that all of them have now. So at first, wow, okay, you're just... US is picking a fight with the Seven Fires Council and Comancheria right out the gates. That sucks, because these two, if given time on this build, actually build decent-sized armies and can survive for like 20 years ish. But if the US decides to pick a fight with them right now, again, because I haven't gone in and coded in starting armies, that's a problem. I just got done writing a, like 5-page sheet dictating how big the armies I want for everyone to have are, and where those soldiers will be from, and where the places will... I don't care. Where the armies will actually be located. So that's cool. That's cool. I'm excited to do that tomorrow. It's going to be tedious, but it should be fun. Again, we're seeing Texas win very consistently now. I've seen them lose once, and only once. Very nice. I realized I'm gonna have to do some weird shit with Canada and maybe the Russian-American company up here to make them... They have cores, right? On Alaska and on Lower Ontario. Right, this is Southern Ontario, whatever. But because they are satellites, they can't actually declare war, so I'm gonna have to add an event to... Well, for Canada at least. You can stay like this, I don't really give a shit. For Canada to sign treaties, to the numbered treaties, I think they're called? Yeah, to eat away at this, but that'll happen, Yeah, the Three Fires Confederacy tends to hang out for a while. Just ignore that. I might be listening to streams while I work to maintain my sanity. It's gonna take them a while to get off the ground. But they will, here, for example, they will fight each other. So here, Comancheria is invading Mescalero. I've seen this happen a lot. Comancheria is in a decent position to actually expand. I've seen them do okay. I accidentally, in the last build, gave the Mexican Native American miners the same treatment I did as the Native American miners that exist within First Nations. So I accidentally gave Mexico, like, I don't know, 6,000 more soldiers than they should have at the beginning of the game, but I just rolled that back and they're laborers again. Yeah, it's a very silly distinction that Victoria 2 makes between who who can pick up a gun and who can't. In truth, most of these people were part-time warriors, part-time farmers, and even up until, oh god, very modern history in the United States, even, we have not had a large standing army. I guess World War One, World War Two, really. We did not maintain a very large standing army. We had a standing army, it was just quite small. We would, you know, turn plows into swords. Is that the expression? Well, it's backwards, but yeah, we would turn workers into soldiers when we needed them, and when we didn't, we'd let them go back to working. And that's historically been what the vast majority of people have done when they've needed armies. Holy shit, you're actually fighting? My god. It's incredible. Yeah, so they'll actually fight each other now. Huge accomplishment? No. I mean, very small, but it was a pain in the ass trying to code in these cores. It was just slow work. I mean, it's not hard. It's very easy coding, but it's just very repetitive. Very, very repetitive. So as things stand, these actually have armies now, they have cores now, they'll actually engage in wars with each other. The United States expansion is slowed a little bit because they're not just conquering defenseless laborers anymore. But it is still very one-sided, and it's gonna stay very one-sided. I want to give at least the big five, being like the Three Fires Confederacy, the Seven Fires Council, and the Comancheria down here. I want them, and the Apache, I guess, and probably Mescalero, to have standing armies at the beginning of the game. I don't care if some of these smaller ones get overrun, but I want them to have standing armies, so at least it'll take longer, or it might discourage the AI from running over them. Now, when we're talking about armies, the smallest army that Victoria lets you make, Victoria 2 lets you build, is 1,000 people. 1,000 people is a fucking lot of people. For example, in the Texas War of Revolution, they had 2,000 people. In this game, they start out with 3,000, just because 2,000 just isn't enough to do anything. Oh, hey, Mexico has some rebels. Nice. Now, the United States Army, I think, starts out too big. I might go in and cut this down a little bit because the standing army of the US was not that big at the time. Also, it was engaged in the Second Seminole War? Not the Third Seminole War, right? Second Seminole War down here, so I might make the Seminoles independents, if only to have them get crushed immediately by the United States in order, again, just to buy time for these to get their shit together and to slow down the US. Long term, I want to take away all these cores that the US starts with over here, and I want the US to have to get cores and territory through decisions and events that have more historical flavor than just you have cores, go annex it. Because I do want this to be a little edutainment. Just a little. I don't think I'm gonna do the same thing with Mexico. Truth be told, they never actually reined in most of this. They technically had an international claim on these territories, but prior to when the United States invaded Mexico in the Mexican-American War, up here, there were very, very few settlers who weren't Yankee. Same shit for in here. Well, okay, that's not true. There was a very small Mexican fort in southern Arizona that was still manned, but the number of Apache in the area is just like insanely higher, so to me it makes more sense just to give that to the Apache because they effectively asserted control over that area of land more prominently, more consistently than the Mexican government did. Same thing with the Comanche here and Texas. Now, there are a couple, at least two more First Nations I want to add to Mexico. That's gonna wait Tier 1, the first thing I'm working on is really getting the United States playable, getting its events working, and having its long journey west feel right to me and fit historically a bit better. So that's going to be a lot of treaties and a lot of events, and those are going to be time consuming to write. Once I pump out like a blueprint for the event type, it should go pretty quickly, but that's going to take some playing around. So that's tier 1. Tier 2, after I'm done with that, is to work on Canada, Canadian events, potential Canadian secession, Canada and Quebec unifying or not unifying, joining the US or not joining the US, because there were sentiments back in 1836 to like 1840 something that some of these, if not all of these, should join the United States. Newfoundland didn't really have a lot of that, but New Brunswick here certainly did. Quebec wanted independence more than anything else, but Upper Canada, down here, modern Ontario, they were pretty keen on joining the US. Well, some of them were. And those are interesting things to explore. In addition, at that time, I'll want to write the events that will allow them to sign the numbered treaties with First Nations up here and start annexing, you know, would-be Canada. There's a couple of events that I'm gonna have to retool because they assume that the United Kingdom owns all this, and they don't anymore. So I'm gonna have to rewrite a couple events that should be pretty easy. I'm gonna have to rewrite the Russian event where the US buys Alaska, because the tag for owner of Alaska is now wrong, so I'm gonna have to change like one line in there that says it annexes these territories from this person instead of this person. But beyond that, it should be pretty much the same. Mexico is then tier 2. Tier 1 is America, tier 2 is Canada, tier 3 is Mexico. Tier is the wrong word. Phase? Yeah, there we go. Phase is a little less offensive. Phase 3 is Mexico. Phase 3, I want to look at like the rebellions in California and Sonora and the Yucatan and the other struggles for power at the time, because Mexico had a very dynamic political atmosphere at this time. But yeah, it's working. It's working quite well. The US still tramples on things a little bit easier, so I'm gonna address that by, number 1, giving standing armies to most, if not all of these, particularly those who are big and should have big armies, well, should be able to defend themselves. Number 2, I might downsize the United States starting army. I think it's ahistorically big. I have to double check that, but maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I know I had to tune Mexico's down a little bit because it was slightly too large. So the US is probably more than slightly too large. And I'll introduce the Seminoles, hopefully. The Seminoles are just going to be fighting a horribly losing war because there are like 3,000 people down here and a third of them are soldiers. So they have enough for one whole regiment of irregulars and then just get run over. But that'll buy time for everyone else, I guess. So yeah. I've been excited to keep working on this. I haven't seen anything super weird so far. Texas, if you want to play a big Texas game, I've given Texas cores over everything that Texas historically claimed. So although you're off to a weaker start than you would be, there's potential for booming quite significantly, eating up everything here. Yeah, God, there were some fascinating arguments with where the Texan border should be. Some had it going here, some had Texas getting split into like 3 parts. Some Texans were like, well, we should just have everything up to the Rio Grande. And they understood the Rio Grande as somehow including this, even though it's definitely... Yeah, everything between the US border and the Rio Grande, Texas considered to be its. It's an interesting take. Yeah, I don't know if I'll add too much flavor to Texas. I might. And yeah. I'm gonna have to go back over what I talked about a year ago with the events that I want to add in, because I think I still will. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. It's coming along! The AI's actually doing shit. Though this was not a great demonstration of it. We saw like one war up here, and that's it. The US took out one of the biggest, the heavy hitters immediately. Ah! And Comanche are getting stomped on now. Yeah, oh no, they're attacking the Navajo, the Dinétah, and the Comanche are just allied to them. Interesting. The Mexican-American War. Now, I don't want to keep this going long enough to showcase it. It ends very quickly now. Very quickly. It ended pretty quickly historically, and this models that very well. Because the US player no longer has to occupy all of this shit, well, all of this shit, and only has to occupy like half of it, and the route to Mexico City is a lot easier than it used to be. It's much easier to knock Mexico out of the war, which is so nice. Yeah. I'm gonna wrap this up now. Thanks for keeping up, hanging out. God, I'm so fucking brain fried. So tired. I have no idea what the fuck I'm streaming, though I should stream something like this today, the 9th. I think the last video I have queued up goes up tomorrow. I'll figure something out, huh? Until tomorrow, I'm gonna say toodaloo, take care, I'll see you then. Bye-bye.